All right, so I just want to show a few examples on how Photoshop can start to be used within renderings. One of the most challenging parts with this assignment is there are so many different techniques and different ways of using Photoshop in the rendering. So I'm just going to try to show you, a few, just to show you some different directions. Here you can see the finalized composite. And just to walk you through the layers, I'm going to turn everything off just to show you how, they just start off with a blank file. Here I can even show you here that it's just an 8.5 by 11 at a resolution of 300. And they just have their background image with the sky. This is their actual rendering that they placed in there. They just have a shadow line back here. They have the shadow for the overall rendering as a separate layer. They just added some clouds in the sky. Here's a shadow for a person. Here's another shadow for another person, and another shadow for another person back here. And then just to give the overall look different effect, they just added a red layer using the paintbrush and just very lightly painted it and probably used the eraser. Then they added just like a yellow highlight on this side as well as a blue highlight across the top and across the side. For this example, again, just that's the overall image. Turning off a few of these layers. You can see this is the background that they started off with, and again, this is saying 8.5 by 11 at 300. They started off with the back sky. They started to add some trees they probably got from a different image, so just slightly less opaque. They just add a third image where they started to add some grass. This shadow line that they added for the actual rendering. So this is the actual rendering itself. Added some people, added a tree, another person, and in the foreground they have something, and they added some adjustments, some overall adjustments. Again, some another foreground image, a few more overall adjustments, another foreground image, and some other people in the middle. And that's their overall composite. This one is starting to get a little bit more on the abstract side, but it still works really well. It's still the same proportions. 8.5 by 11 at a resolution of 300. And again, that's the final image, and just walk you through the different layers. They started off with their overall background and they trimmed it so that it's a circle. The shadow line path, and just added some background images. There's some trees that they added, and here's the part that they rendered, with their design, and just adding some people, and just added that last person for their overall composite. And the next image is very similar, just a little bit more on the abstract side as opposed to realistic, but it still gets the idea across. You just turn off some layers and just walk you through this one. Here's the background layer that they started off with. Again, it's also an 8.5 by 11 with a resolution of 300. Just a pink background, just a little bit offset with the beveled edge. Here's a previous render that they attempted. They didn't like it too much, so they're still going to use it and use parts of it in here. They're just changing the sky. They're adding this transparent train. This is the actual rendering of their design, and just a few extra layers just to add texture to the overall composite. Some birds in the sky. There's a giraffe, some kids playing, more people, and a person in the foreground. But even though it's on the abstract side, it's still really, really well done. And this last image, you can see the overall composite. This one's a little bit more zoomed in, so you're just only seeing a portion of the design, as opposed to seeing the overall design, but it still works. Again, they started off the same with the 8.5 by 11 at 300, so it's a high quality rendering. This is just the background image that they started off with. It's at the McNay Museum. You see the McNay building in the background. See the shadow for their rendering. They started to lighten up the shadow line with some adjustments. That's the actual rendering itself. Again, just some more adjustments to the rendering. They added in like some detail after the fact. They added some slight small grass adjustments here to make it blend in a little bit better. Here's a person sitting on their design. Some people underneath in the shadows of their design. Some person in the background. Their shadow. And some parts that they had to fix on the overall design. You can see it right here. And an overall adjustment on the detail. So again, there's a lot of different ways that you can take this, but hopefully with these examples kind of gives you an idea of different ways that you can take this.